Salut à tous, même les femmes. Et aussi les enfants, tous.
Quelle bonne idée de venir vous joindre à nous.
Tu as un sacré culot de venir ici.
Installe-toi, j'arrive tout de suite.
Y a pas de quoi s'exciter.
Tu te défends bien, jeune homme.
Moi, c'est Dash.
Si tu veux bien me suivre, on va te trouver ce que tu cherches.
Bienvenue à l'Outrider, je m'appelle Charles Soule et je suis un scénariste de Star Wars. Et allons-y.
Ça redémarre.
Faites préparer une navette.
Je vous parle des modèles de combat Corelli à double rayon.
Leader rouge au rapport.
Leader gris au rapport.
Leader vert au rapport.
Nos chasseurs sont au complet.
Volet de fermeture en position d'attaque.
So my first question was regarding the title you earned in 2016, because we already met in Angoulême during this year, and you were the first writer to have written something in the prequels, an original trilogy, and the sequels. And now you even wrote something that a fan may refer to as the in-between quotes.
In between, oui.
Yes. So I was just wondering if you're not tired to be the only one with this belt, so to speak, and don't you want to put it on the line and try to have a fight with another writer or something?
No, we all the writers are friends. We all love each other very much, so we do not fight, which is sometimes we fight, but I just feel very lucky that I get to tell these amazing Star Wars stories. There are, few Star Wars writers who have written in all these time periods. Maybe no other Star writers who have written in all these time, or Star Wars writers who have written stories for all these different times. And I'm also lucky that I get these very interesting parts of the timeline. So between episode 1 and episode 2, there are almost no stories at all. I think maybe one or two others in the new canon. After episode 3, obviously we have Rebels and Solo, but we this moment of the Darth Vader series, which is said, immédiatement après episode 3, c'est seulement moi, maintenant. And then of course there's Poe Dameron, which got to go after episode 8. Again, the only story in Star Wars that's past episode 8 right now is one that I wrote. So I don't know how I get to keep being so lucky, but I am glad that I do, and I hope there's more good luck to come.
Okay, cool. You mentioned Poe Dameron, and the series just ended, as Vader will also end in a few weeks. Months maybe.
Ouais.
Yes. So I was wondering what's next for you in the Star Wars universe. Of course, maybe you can answer that, but maybe there's another era or a character or even, I don't know, a planet, a concept you would like to explore in the Star Wars universe.
I am not finished with Star Wars. I have some very cool things that I'm working on, but I cannot talk about them now in any detail, unfortunately. It's, they are very, very precise about the secrecy on all the Star Wars projects, from comics to everything else, all the way up to movies. It's always big secret. And if you talk about it, then you don't get to work on Star Wars anymore. And I love to work on Star Wars, so I will not risk it today. But putting the actual things I'm working on aside, the things maybe that would be fun for me that I'd be interested in, I have really not written very much Luke Skywalker. I think he's a cool character who there's still many interesting stories to tell about. I think you can do, I've been on other interviews and talked about Star Wars before and said how much I love Emperor Palpatine. So any chance I get to tell...
Including one of my interview, actually.
Oh, right, okay. So any chance I get to write big Palpatine stories, I will always take it. And that's been the fun of Darth Vader, is that Palpatine is such a big part of that story.
Okay, so no stories involving Dash Render and the Outrider for now?
As far as I know...
We'll be down for it.
Yeah, poor old Dash Rendar is retired at the moment. He's having adventures off by himself in the Lost extended universe. But maybe, who knows? I mean, other thing, Thrawn came back, so anything is possible.
Okay, cool. I was wondering how the work is actually working with Lucasfilm, because you mentioned it just briefly, and I think it's kind of hard to hard process to go through, because I guess you have to be check something with them, or you also have to keep the secrets of all this exciting stuff happening on your script. So I was wondering, because I already talked about other writers, like for example Kieran Gillen, who's writing Dr. Aphra, and I was surprised to hear, like he said to me that he had almost more liberty than any franchise work he accepted during his career. Could you confirm that?
I confirm it. I agree with it. I think there is this sense that working with Lucasfilm is this, that they are the empire, right?
Yes.
That it's they are the stormtroopers who are stopping us, but it's not. It is not like that at all. We are hired as writers and artists because we love Star Wars and have things to contribute to it, and so what they want us to do, whether it's Story Group or Lucasfilm or Marvel, anyone, is to give them our best ideas and to tell the best stories. And a lot of times the best stories are surprising, and you can only be surprising if you do things that are new, that have not been seen before. And so that is why there's freedom in part, but also there's a difference between the Star Wars stories and the and say like Marvel superhero stories, which is that in Star Wars, everything is part of the same timeline. So if I tell a story about Darth Vader getting his first red lightsaber, no one else can ever tell that story. And you don't have to worry in a way about what other people are doing with your characters, because I'm the only one who can do the things that have been discussed about my series. Because when you start, you do a big outline for your series, most of it, like a lot of the story, and then you talk about it with Lucasfilm. But once it's approved, nobody else can do those things. So you have this freedom to make those things as amazing as possible. So I love working with those guys. They're great, men and women. They're all fantastic. And as far as the secrets go, it's. Like, that's one of the best things. Like, that I know these things, that's not a problem. That's a good thing.
Okay. And how about working with the first piece of Star Wars universe that is after The Last Jedi? Does that change the dynamic with them? Is that
a bit,
more?
But yes, I would say yes, that did. There were more discussions about that time period, because part of it is, we have not seen Episode 9. It has not happened yet, and it's in flux. And so things are... We just don't know where all of that will land. And particularly when I was writing those issues, it was still earlier in the production of Episode 9. So they know things now that they did not know then. So I had to write a story that was interesting and compelling, but no matter what happened, wasn't going to get in the way with what Episode 9 did. So it was an interesting challenge for me as a writer to find the drama and find the excitement in it, even knowing that I couldn't go too far. Like, I couldn't go 6 months after Episode 8. I could do like 1 week after Episode 8. But it was still amazing, and I'm so glad I was able to do it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. You're a very busy guy, as everybody who knows your work knows it. But I wanted to talk about your first novel as well.
Because the Oracle Year.
Yes, it's not out in France yet.
No, not yet. I think we sold it to France. I think we did, and so probably 2019. I think.
Okay, we'll be there.
Yeah, and I don't know what the French translation of the title would be. L'année du prophète.
Maybe.
Comme ça.
Yeah, sounds like it.
But I'm excited for people to read it here. It's been very well received in the United States and other places where it's been out. And it's for me, it's just the start of what I think will be many novels.
Okay.
Not sequels to Oracle Year, but other stories and other books. So.
Okay, and you also mentioned recently on Twitter, because I did my stalking before this interview, that you were working on television.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was wondering if any of those two medias is something you could see yourself do for Star Wars in the future, or even without Star Wars, you're already involved in that.
If they ask, I like writing stories for all different audiences, all different mediums. It's always interesting to me, and they're new challenges too, right? So I've written thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of comic books at this point. I've only written one novel, so for me, writing another novel is a new challenge, a new skill to master. And writing TV, I've barely done any of it, so I feel like there's a lot for me to learn in that world still. And I like learning new things. I like trying new things, challenging myself. So yeah, TV, movies, whatever cool jobs I can get, I'd love to do.
And how do you approach this transition from a media to another? Do you try to read stuff about it, or you just try to improvise on what you already know from comics to series? Because I guess the gap between them is not too
that's right.
tight.
It's not too
wide.
Yeah, not too wide.
Yes.
That's the word. Correct. It is a chance to. I mean, a story is a story, right? And I know how to tell a story, and so it's about the core is always a story. It's about the exterior of it, like what the shell looks like, because the shell of a comic doesn't look like the shell of a TV series. So it's about understanding the way to communicate the ideas you need to communicate clearly to a TV person versus a comics person, and that is like learning to play a different instrument. But I think I'm a musician, and I play a lot of different instruments, and I think once you've learned music, you can pick up other instruments pretty quickly because it's all kind of the same. So if you can play the guitar, you can figure out a violin. If you play the piano, you can figure out, a guitar, I guess. But if you play wind instruments, a saxophone is not so different from a clarinet. Things like this. They're all music at the core, and the story is the same way. So it's about learning a different instrument, maybe, but you still know music.
Okay. I wanted to go on maybe a kind of tricky terrain right here with Star Wars and politics, because these days we learn, we unfortunately saw harassment online, people not really happy, to say the least, about The Last Jedi, trying to remake this movie. Recently we had problems with we heard problems about Chuck Wending on his Star Wars work, and he was just like you, writing on different medias. So I was just wondering, what do you make of all that? Does the politicness of Star Wars put extra weight on your shoulders, or do you have to take care of that, or you just go with your story and you'll see?
I generally go with my stories and tell the stories that I think are the best for the characters and for the job I've been hired to do. As far as the political side of Star Wars and the way people use it to frame other arguments, like they take Star Wars and use it to talk about the politics of the day or anything like that, I think that it's fine to have opinions about art, and you should. Everyone should have opinions about art. You don't have to like The Last Jedi if you didn't like it. What I don't like, and I think is awful, is when people use a critical opinion that they have, which they're welcome to have, to harass people, to hurt people, to say evil things about people personally, whether that's Rose Tico or Kelly Marie Tran or Ryan Johnson or Chuck Wendig or any, it seems sad to me that people would make the choice to be negative personally about people when what they're really concerned about is a fictional universe that makes them feel a certain way or doesn't make them feel a certain way. So I think there's no excuse for behaving that way, and I wish it would stop. I think it's not in the spirit of Star Wars at all, and we'll see what happens.
Okay, but would you agree about the fact that Star Wars has always been political? Because there is this saying nowadays that Marvel is too political, Star Wars is too political, but if you think about it just for a second, it was reacting to a lot of stuff in the George Lucas mind and whatnot.
Yeah, I think the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, they were all concerned with things that were on George Lucas's mind, and now that the stories have expanded out to a larger set of creators beyond just George Lucas, of course you're going to put ideas about the world that you live in when you write a story. If you aren't reflecting your world in your stories, then you're not a very good writer. I think stories should always be personal to some degree, and it happens almost whether you want it to or not. So of course Star Wars and Marvel and DC and everything is going to reflect the world. Art always reflects the world that it's created in. But again, if you don't like it, it doesn't mean the person who created it is a monster or is somebody who is evil or is bad or deserves to be treated in a way that you wouldn't treat a person if you met them on the street. It's I don't know. I think that you're right. I mean, politics is everywhere, especially in a time that I feel is very political right now. It's all we talk about, all we think about. Not all, but a lot of it. Like, you're consumed with it in the news.
Yeah.
So.
As a last question, maybe I was wondering because what I find great about your work in Star Wars is you created characters that have very Star Warsy, so to speak, jobs. Like you created a journalist, an architect, almost in Darth Vader. So I was just wondering if the next one is an attorney, such as you, or I don't know what you had in mind for next jobs to put in the Star Wars universe.
I mean, I think hard about the people that we haven't seen in Star Wars yet, because it's a massive galaxy, and there must be people who have all kinds of different jobs. Farmers, musicians, all of those skills are there. I mean, there was the game. Do you remember the game Star Wars Galaxies?
Yeah,
right.
Of course,
everyone, right? And that had a lot of different jobs and professions,
Yes.
crafting and farming and growing food and cooking food. And I always thought that was very interesting. In Darth Vader, there's a bit where I make a former Jedi becomes like a priest, like a local priest on his planet, helping his town with things. And I think as the galaxy grows and expands, I think it's important to not have just Jedi, stormtroopers, and bounty hunters, right? It's and scoundrels and it's. All of those things are colors that have been very useful in the overall palette of Star Wars, but I think if you can find new things, it helps you explore new stories. Like you mentioned the journalist Sir Linda Javos in Poe Dameron. I got to tell stories like when you think about what a journalist would think about Leia's resistance or the rebellion, it's very interesting because her perspective is of a journalist, of somebody who's looking for news and understands the manipulation of news and all of that. And we just haven't seen it very much in Star Wars. And I thought it would be interesting to have a new perspective, and I'll keep doing it if I can think of new professions.
Yeah, I was a journalist at the time, and I was happy to see one in the Star Wars universe. So I guess there are a lot of truckers or farmers, or in a way, scoundrels is a
people with lives who are ordinary in a way, but also exceptional, because every life is exceptional in its own way. And if you're a good storyteller, you can find an exceptional story to tell about even an ordinary, and I put quotes around ordinary, person.
Okay, thank you so much for these answers.
My pleasure.
We will not make your fans wait any longer, so may the force be with you.
And also with you, right?
Yeah, with everyone, actually.
Yes,
because,
with everyone.
we love everyone
Okay,
here.
thank
you so much.
All right.
Eh bien, Votre Altesse, c'est l'heure des adieux.
Oui, je crois.
Surtout, ne me remerciez pas tous à la fois.
Alors, t'as eu ton fric et tu tires ta révérence?
Si on réussit à éviter que les bonnes femmes s'en mêlent, on devrait pouvoir se tirer de là.
Oh, tu fous la merde partout.
Ne m'énerve pas, petit gars. Prends ta pelle et ton seau et va jouer.
Allez,